Well guys, this is the fourth installment of my top 100 players in the world. My name's Max, I'm the host over here at the Black Jersey, and once again, a massive thank you to my patrons for all the support they've given me throughout 2023. This is the, penultimate video I'm recording for 2023 unless some major news breaks while I'm on holiday. And yeah, other than that, it's been a great year, so let's rip into one last video for my installment in the top 100 players in the world. These are of course just based on my opinion and the scientific method of the eye test, so you are more than welcome to list your top 100 down below in the comment section after you've subscribed and liked this video. To start off the video, I'm going to introduce Santiago Arata as number 25 on the list. Maybe this is a bit of a controversial take, but I truly believe that he is the second to best halfback in the world. Santiago Arata for a long time has been the beating heart of the Uruguayan side, Los Teros, and simply put, we finally got to see him on the world stage after a bit of an injury break, and he was just once again phenomenal. He has such an instinctive running passion, he has a beautiful passing game, and of course, he's an experienced player who is not scared to boss around the big forwards in his side. With 45 test caps under his belt, this guy's almost definitely going to go down as Uruguay's greatest ever halfback, and maybe if it weren't for Diego or Makaya, he would be Uruguay's greatest ever player. We now have number 24, Ben Damiafuna. In the World Cup, Tonga, just simply put, didn't have a good enough draw to get themselves towards the quarterfinals, and their lineout throughout the competition was rubbish. Totai Kefu didn't really get a lot of club level cohesion coming along in to help the Sea Eagles Ikalitahi play well, but luckily for Ben Damiafuna, their scrum was awesome. Whenever Tonga were playing against Tier 1 nations, it was almost like every time it was two Tier 1 nations going at each other, the better one having a slight lead before floodgates were opening, and that's mostly due to the work of Ben Damiafuna. Now, at 151 kgs, you would think this guy probably scoffs down about, 20 donuts a day, but he's actually very, very fit. He's not the player who's huffing and puffing like how he used to be. He's got really, really good lung capacity, and of course, a world-class scrum technique. It was also nice to see him get a few tries during the World Cup, just really showing off his athletic ability as he used to play as a 10 at school. We now go to number 23. This is Kurt Lee Aronza. While Aronza isn't going to be in my World 15, which, well, of course, you guys would have already seen, Aronza is still a very, very good player, and it would be criminal not for me to put him in the top 25 of the list. At 27 years old, he's been somewhat of a late bloomer for a winger, but the type of player he is, got a great step, very, very fast as well. I mean, it's realistic he could get to a second Rugby World Cup, just like Cheslin Colby. While everyone was hailing him as the new Cheslin Colby, it was great to see them both in combination doing real damage for South Africa this year. But one spot above him in number 22, I have to have Mark Talia, because this guy just knows how to get into the kill zone. He has an excellent flow state, an excellent mental edge to his game, and he just does not feel the pressure after the way his brother sadly left this world. Mark Talia, man, is playing for his whānau, he is playing for God, he is playing for just being the fact that he was such a guy who got ignored by Ian Foster for so long. He should have made his test debut back in 2020. When he finally got there in 2022, he was like, right, you've underrated me for so long, I'm going to take that 11 jersey, and he absolutely did that. He nearly broke Jonah Lomu's record for most defenders beaten at the World Cup, becoming just the second player in history to beat 40 or more defenders in a World Cup, with just 9 test caps under his belt. And at 26, like Aronza, he's a bit of a late bloomer, but he absolutely has the athletic capabilities to be at a second World Cup. We now move over to Caelan Doris, who I have at number 21, because the way he can cover 6 and 8 for the Irish is so, so good. He's an unbelievably talented player, Caelan Doris. Honestly, he would pretty much start in every single other international side apart from New Zealand, because the way he plays the game is just so amazing to watch. Turnover machine, tackle machine, carry machine, he can do it all. Now at 20, Johnny Sexton, his countryman, is also here. Johnny Sexton didn't quite get to have the farewell he deserved, but he retires from international rugby with 125 tests under his belt. He retires from international rugby as one of the greats of the game, and of course, before he retired, he was playing absolutely just amazingly at the World Cup with his vision always on the pitch, ready to strike at any given moment. Such a great tactician who will forever be remembered as one of the greats. Now we move over to number 19, Darcy Graham of Scotland. He didn't quite have the same year as he did in 2022, as he did unfortunately miss the Six Nations due to injury, but I have no regrets that I triple captained him against Romania. I specifically saved that part of the fantasy league for when Scotland played Romania, and it was well worth it. He delivered one of the most beautiful individual performances of all time in that game, and every other time he turned out for Scotland in 2023, he was so unbelievably effective as well. He's got a wicked step. I would love to see him at a third Rugby World Cup. We now have Weenie Antonio, the number 18 of France. Though he normally wears the number 3 jersey internationally, it's been great to see him have such a great international career, using his 6'6", 146 kg frame to just beat defenders all the time and dominate the scrum all the time. One of the best scrummaging props France have ever had. It will be very, very hard to replace him when he retires, as it's reported that he's not going to retire just yet. Anyway, 17, we have Aaron Smith, who is indeed retiring. 2023 will be his last team of international rugby, and of course he's just going to finish off his career with Toyota Verblitz in Japan. Smith has had a great career. I don't think he's going to go down as the All Blacks' best halfback of all time, as he did have a bit of an inconsistent career, but throughout his career he achieved so much in 125 tests. World Cup winner, very, very good passer, and of course what we'd missed for a long time from Aaron Smith was his running game. He brought it back to finish off his international career in 2023, and it was glorious to see him go out in such a way, though he unfortunately couldn't get a gold medal. We now have Marcos Kramer in 16th place. He broke the record for most tackles in a single Rugby World Cup, and he's a huge asset of a blindside flanker to Los Pumas. 2 meters tall, 110 kgs, and with 64 test caps at 26 years old, there's a good chance that if he keeps his discipline, he could break Alan Wynne-Jones' record for the most cap player of all time. That record will be very hard to take, but you know what? With Argentina not really having much of a rugby playing population there, I think that if someone's going to break that record, this could be the guy. We now move over to 15, Piato Malvaca. He was France's third choice hooker just a few years back, and I think he finishes the Rugby World Cup as their first after he just absolutely destroyed everything in sight after taking the 2 jersey from the injured Julian Marchand. Piato Malvaca, man, honestly, anybody would want him in their team aside from South Africa, because wowzers, Piato Malvaca is just a true one-in-a-generation talent over a hooker, and France need to keep starting him after this World Cup. Now at 14, I have Owen Farrell, the guy that everybody likes to hate. While that's not the jersey he wears, he's not exactly much of a running threat. That's what people say, but they forget that with Farrell off the pitch, England just are not the same team. There's nobody in that English lineup who can control the game quite like Owen Farrell and Marcus Smith, and because Steve Borthwick couldn't really make his mind up about who to start at 15 between Smith and Freddie Stewart, well, that meant Owen Farrell was the only regular starter for England in the backline that is remotely close to world class. You can say whatever you want about his shoulder, but simply put, he has a high tackle accuracy rate, he has a great kicking rate, and of course, the tactics I've already mentioned, nobody can bring them out of their English side better than Owen Farrell. The backline is mostly boring to watch, and without this guy, I think I would just turn the TV off. We now go to 13 and have got Pieter-Steph du Toit. While Kramer broke that record I mentioned before, du Toit broke the record for most tackles in a World Cup final, and he is an absolute workhorse. He's had a few injuries over the years, but he really came back to have what I believe was his best season as a Springbok. Controversial, I know, because of 2019, but simply put, I don't think anybody in that box pack works harder than him, and it says a lot about the guy when the 7-1 split is a thing, but du Toit still plays the full 80. Superb fitness, especially with South Africa being such a set-piece dominating team, always wanting the scrum, always wanting lineouts, but no, Pieter-Steph du Toit is like, mate, I don't care, put me on for the full 80, I'm going to deliver, and he absolutely did that throughout the entire World Cup. Now at 12, I have Richie Mo'unga. I'm gutted for this guy, man, that he can't get a gold medal, because simply put, I was right about him, the haters were wrong about him. Richie Mo'unga is the best 10 the All Blacks have ever had that isn't Dan Carter, and this year he was simply put going out on top. His running game is world class, and with Ian Foster finally trusting him with the game plan, he was like, yeah, actually I can bring my Super Rugby form to test level. There's a reason I named him as the best 10 in the world back in 2021. There's a reason I am naming him as the second best 10 in the world right now, and I am absolutely gutted he is off to Japan, bro. Because Richie Mo'unga, I think at 29 years old, still has a lot to give to the All Blacks. He is a once-in-a-generation talent. I don't think any of the other 10s playing right now have near the amount of talent that Mo'unga has. It's just a matter of, consistency and everything like that. The All Blacks, the fact that Mo'unga plays for such a team means I can't really have him at the number 1 10 spot, because over we go. Before we show the best 10 in the world, I want to give a huge shout out to Jack Morgan, the Welsh captain. This guy over here, he saved that country. Wales, much like New Zealand, is a bit of a small country with not really much of an identity outside of rugby. The two countries are very, very similar for the same reason. But when Wales are playing well, they play well on heart and they play well on pride. Jack Morgan is a guy who brought that back into the Welsh jersey. Gone were the leadership of the team who thought they were bigger than the game, and in came a young man who is underrated and no longer. He was like, right, I've been silently working, no one noticing me for a few years. I'm going to show, hey, look guys, look at me, I'm world class. Name me another open side flanker that can kick the 50-22s and the cross kicks in the same way as Jack Morgan. Name me another open side flanker who can get into a pod with backs and function both as a ruck clearance option and a distributor. Name me an open side flanker who can do pretty much anything around the park. I don't think you can. Jack Morgan with Wales, everyone's saying Portugal was going to beat them. He just took that frustration of his team and he delivered results with it. Congratulations to him on a huge season. Now at number 10, Malcolm Marx, another forward who needs to be on this list. I know, guys, Malcolm Marx didn't actually play the full 80 in any games of the World Cup because he tore his ACL in training, but if Malcolm Marx didn't get injured, I think it's safe to say South Africa could have won the World Cup final by a much larger margin. This guy is the master of the driving maul. He's like an extra loose forward when he's over the ball in the breakdown. And of course, with that frame, it always helps having that weight of his in the scrum to get the team that go forward that they always want to have. Anyway, the best 10 in the world remain Ntamack. The poor French, man. If this guy was at the World Cup, maybe things could have been different. But in the 6 games he did play in 2023, he was absolutely world class. At just 24 years old, he feels like he's a 30-year-old veteran who just knows everything about the game. Romain Ntamack isn't bigger than the team by any means, but simply put, he is the heartbeat of that French team. Without him, they were looking a bit lost, I think. Dupont looks like there was a bit too much pressure. Romain Ntamack is an all-round 10, and while he's not necessarily as talented as Richie Mo'unga, he's one of the hardest working first fives I have come across, and hopefully in 2027 he can get to his second Rugby World Cup after all, after just really cruelly missing this one. Over to number 8, Thomas Ramos. While he can play 10 at club level, he has been a huge revelation at fullback for France in 2023. I was looking at Hugo Keenan throughout most of the season, like, oh yeah, pretty good, but in the Six Nations, Thomas Ramos just turned up to kick so many points. He scored the 8th most points scored by any player in a calendar year in history and just had a beautiful season. He's a great defender, he's a great tactician. I've already said he's a great kicker, come on guys. And of course he ran over 800 meters in 2023. He's going to be in my World 15 for this year, and I think you should probably know that by now at this point of the video if you haven't watched my World 15 video already. Over at number 7 I have Andrew Porter. Well, there are 2 loose head props in my top 10 players in the world, and if I was going to ignore Andrew Porter, I think the Irish will be banning me from their country. Andrew Porter is just a freak of a player, can squat nearly 300 kgs, he's one of the best scrummagers in the world, and of course, his running game. Very, very, very underappreciated by many who were always just drooling over his scrummaging. You got to look out for this guy's running game, you got to look out for his distribution game, and of course the tackles. He's just making so many. He plays for nothing but his country. He's a man with tears at the start of every national anthem. He is just a player that everyone must appreciate if they know anything about rugby. At 6, Bundy Aki, the Irish Player of the Year. He had a bit of an injury, didn't quite get started in the Six Nations, but he saved his best form to last. The 55 Test veteran doing it all for his country. At 33 as well, I'm really happy to see he's not retiring yet. He's signed a 2-year contract extension with the Irish, hopefully going to go on a second British and Irish Lions tour. Bundy Aki, man, well and deservingly got his World Player of the Year nomination, but there are a few players who I think probably deserved it more, so we'll move on to number 5, Will Jordan. Robbery. Daylight robbery, World Rugby. What are you up to, man? Will Jordan, for the second season as a professional athlete got 10 or more test tries in a calendar year. He got 10 this year, including 8 for the duration of the Rugby World Cup, getting a hat-trick against Los Pumas in just a stunning display. Why was he not man of the match there as well? Will Jordan, man, seriously, he's in such great form right now, and anyone who doesn't rate Will Jordan, stop watching the video. We now got a number 4, Ox and Chair. South Africa would have exited in the pool stage if not for this guy saving them in the scrum all the time. This guy over here is the best scrummager in the world. That's all I've got to say. If you don't think Oxenshare is the best scrummager in the world, I want you to watch a 3-hour compilation of scrums, then come back, get on your knees, and say, salads do not win scrums. Please, Lord, give me some more cake. Because that way you will become an infinitely better scrummager than you are now, and maybe, just maybe, we can finally get someone to beat Oxenshare in the scrum. Seriously, he saved them against England, he saved them against France, and of course he tore the All Blacks to pieces in the World Cup final. What an excellent player Oxenshare is. At number 3, Eben Etzebeth. It's only fair I'm going to fill up the number 10 through to number 1 spots with type 5 forwards. They're the most important players in this game, and Eben Etzebeth is the best type 5 forward in the world. 2.04 meters, 119 kgs, the greatest enforcer this game has ever seen, the greatest South African player of all time, and I can't think of any other lock who deserves to win 2 Rugby World Cup titles than Eben Etzebeth. Him and Sam Whitelock are the greatest locks to ever see the game. That is it. Now at number 2, now you guys remember all those memes about Leonardo DiCaprio not winning an Oscar from about 10 years ago or so, right? Well, he won for The Revenant in, I think, 2015, but I think there was actually a case of the Oscars having a bit of buyer's remorse, realizing they should have given it to him for Wolf of Wall Street, and I think that's a bit of a similar thing with Adi Savia winning World Player of the Year in 2023, where in actuality he should have won it in 2022. But before we get to the number 1 spot, seriously, Adi Savia is the greatest number 8 the All Blacks have ever seen by this point. He is the king. He's devastating the breakdown. He can kick. He runs heaps of meters in every single game he's played. He's always got a high tackle account. And now that he's gone from the player who was keeping us from losing by record margins all the time in 2022 to finally getting the appreciation in 2023, it's been awesome to see. Look back at 2018, see a bunch of comments saying, oh, he'll be off to France soon like his brother. Oh, he's crap. Sam Cane's better. No. Since day one, I believed he would be one of the greatest All Blacks of all time. He's proven the haters wrong, and he is well and deservingly World Rugby Player of the Year after he should have won in 2022. But they are once again going to have some buyer's remorse because Damien Penaud is actually the best player in the world for 2023. This guy here is just 3 tries away from being France's highest ever try scorer. This guy has got the most tries in a calendar year for any player outside of New Zealand. He will step you, he will fend you, he will out-sprint you, he can out-kick you. Damien Penaud as well, he plays a very, very difficult defensive role for the French. They've got a bit of a sliding defensive pattern, so the fact that he gets forced to just complete such difficult tackles and still manages to get most of them down, it's a huge testament to the true skill on this guy. He is the most evasive player to tackle in the world for good reasons. Damien Penaud is like a fly half with the instincts of a centre, but he plays on the wing for France because they have this tactic where they always want to have a centre wearing the number 14 jersey. Damien Penaud is the best rugby player in the world, and I think World Rugby, like I said before, are going to get some buyer's remorse and reward Damien Penaud in 2024 when he should have got it in 2023. Now, thank you very much for watching this video, guys. I'm going to just, for those who need some extra time, I'm going to compile all 4 of these videos into the one, so you guys can count down from 100 through to number 1 as part of the top 100 players in the world, in my opinion. A huge thank you as well to everyone who's watched this video. Just remember to share your thoughts down below, subscribe and like this video. One last thank you to my patrons as well. And of course, guys, I will see you in the next video. Cheers for watching from Max.